Dear second PUC students, I welcome all of you for this session. So in the previous sessions, we studied about atomic models. The first basic atomic model is Thomson's atomic model. Thomson himself gave that model after the discovery of electron. When metals are heated to high temperature, electrons get ejected by observing those negatively charged rays called cathode rays. So he himself gave Thomson's atomic model. That model failed to explain all the experimentally observed facts. So then we move to Rutherford atomic model. That model explained a few things but failed to explain some more things. It too has certain limitations. So then, by that time, one more great scientist, Niels Bohr, gave his own model which explains most of the observed phenomena. That model is called Bohr atomic model. So this model is based on few postulates called Bohr postulates. What is the meaning of the word postulate? Or axioms. They are simply accepted statements without proof. First, you should accept all these things. So in geometry, you have so many postulates. So he stated his views in terms of postulates. Okay? So the first postulate, what he stated is, what Rutherford told is right. An atom consists of central, positively charged nucleus and negatively charged electrons revolving round the nucleus. Okay? The necessary centripetal force is provided by electrostatic force of attraction between the nucleus, positively charged nucleus, and negatively charged electrons, unlike charge, attract each other. That provides the centripetal force. Therefore, centripetal force is given by mv square by r is equal to the electrostatic force based on Coulomb's law, 1 by 4 pi epsilon q1 q2 by r square. 1 r goes, you are left with this. Okay? So what Rutherford told is right. That is his first postulate. The next postulate is a revolutionary one. It is a very, very important postulate. This postulate makes the difference. Okay? So what does this postulate says? No doubt, electrons revolve around the nucleus, but not in all mechanically permitted orbits. So can the electron revolve here? No. Can they revolve here? No. They can revolve only in certain permitted orbits. Like this. This is the first permitted orbit. That first permitted orbit is called K-shell. Can it revolve here? No, no, no. This is not permitted. It is the forbidden region. Can it revolve here? Yes, it can revolve here. This is the second permitted orbit. Can it revolve next to this? No. Next it can revolve here. That is M shell, n equals 3. This is the first permitted orbit. This is the second permitted orbit. Electrons can revolve only in certain permitted orbits. That is very, very important. Okay. Now, what is the condition for the electrons to revolve in those permitted orbits? The angular momentum of the electron. Angular momentum is given by mass, moment of linear moment. That is nothing but mass into velocity multiplied by radius of the orbit. It gives angular momentum in the first PUC. So you read under rotational motion. Angular momentum must be an integral multiple. This n is an integer. That means n equals 1. Therefore, it becomes h by 2 pi. Here, so it is not h by 2 pi. It becomes h by 2 pi here. After this, next it becomes 2h by 2 pi in the second orbit. In the next orbit, it should be 3h by 2. That is the meaning of that. Okay? The angular momentum of electrons must be an integral multiple of h by 2 pi. In those orbits only, electrons can revolve. In other orbits, in other mechanical orbits, electrons didn't revolve. Okay? That statement here only, it supports quantum theory, quantum nature. Okay? All possible values of energy is not possible. Only certain discrete values, discrete orbits. Okay? The orbits are not continuous, only discrete orbits. Okay. So this revolutionary statement is called Bohr quantum condition. Bohr put a condition for the electrons to revolve around the nucleus. What is that condition? The angular momentum of electrons must be an integral multiple of h by 2 pi. H stands for Planck's constant. Okay? Max Planck, who gave quantum theory. So based on that, we named this as Bohr quantum condition. Okay? So with a suffix, we used to write velocity of the electron in the nth permitted orbit as Vn, radius of the nth permitted as Rn, this here also n, here also n, these things, finally the expressions becomes these things. Vn means velocity of the electron in the nth permitted orbit. If it is first orbit, V1. If it is second orbit, V2. Radius of the first orbit, R1. Radius of the second orbit, R2. So to signify that we added this suffix. Okay? So this is the second postulate of Bohr. Next we shall move to the next postulate, that is the third postulate. Okay, this is also very, very important. It overlooks classical physics, classical theory. Okay, so no doubt, electrons revolve around the nucleus in certain permitted orbits. That is, first orbit, second orbit, third orbit, like that. No doubt, they will revolve. Okay? During their motion in the same orbit, they didn't absorb or radiate energy. The total energy of the electron in the same orbit remain constant. That is why these orbits are also called non-radiating orbits or stationary states. Stationary means the energy of the electron in the same orbit remains the same. It won't change. It may be here, here, here. The total energy remains constant. The electrons didn't radiate. That means didn't absorb or radiate energy as long as they move in the same orbit. Total energy remain constant. Then the question arises, when the electrons absorb energy, when they emit energy, when electrons jumps from inner orbits, that means low energy orbit to high energy orbit, energy is absorbed. Okay? To jump from inner orbit to the higher orbit, outer orbit, energy is absorbed. When electrons jumps from high energy orbit to low energy orbit, outer orbit to inner orbit, energy is emitted. That difference in energy is emitted In the form of what? In the form of radiation, that is photon. The difference in energy of the two states, En2 minus En1, is emitted as a photon, where h is Planck's constant, nu is the frequency of the radiation, the energy of a photon is E equals h nu. Okay? This is another very, very important statement. This statement was given by, postulate was given by Bohr. This condition is called Bohr frequency condition. This is called Bohr quantum condition. Please understand these things very clearly. So Bohr's theory is based on these three postulates. So know these three things very clearly. If we use these three postulates, if we apply them to hydrogen atom, that application of these postulates to hydrogen atom is called Bohr's theory of hydrogen atom. Okay? So what does Bohr says about? If we apply Bohr's theory or Bohr's postulates to hydrogen atom, what we can do? We can derive expression for the velocity of the electron. We can find out the speed of the electron. Okay? Does electrons, so with what velocity electrons goes in the first orbit, in the second orbit? So you can find an expression. We can derive expression for the radius of the orbits, permitted orbits. Then we can find the energy of the electrons in those orbits. Whether the energy is positive or negative, we can see. Then we can find out when the electron jumps from higher energy orbit to low energy orbit, what is the frequency of the radiation emitted? We can derive expression. What is the wavelength of the radiation? Okay? We can see different spectral theories of hydrogen atom. So using Bohr postulates, if we apply these postulates to hydrogen atom, we can know, we can have so much of information about hydrogen atom. That is called Bohr's theory of hydrogen atom. Now we shall derive expression for the velocity of the electron in the permitted orbits and radius of the permitted orbits of hydrogen atom using Bohr postulates. Okay. Now we shall derive expression for the velocity of the electron and radius of the permitted orbits using Bohr postulates. Okay. So already we know that a hydrogen atom consists of a proton in the nucleus and an electron revolving around the nucleus in certain permitted orbits. The necessary centripetal force is provided by electrostatic force. Thereby, so this Rn, one Rn goes, you got this expression. So according to the Bohr quantum condition, angular momentum is an integral multiple of h by 2 pi. Therefore, we got this expression 2. These things. So then, if we divide equation 1 by equation 2, that LHS by LHS, RHS divided by RHS. So if I divide this numerator denominator interchanges. So if I change division into multiplication, then observe here very clearly, this mass goes, one velocity goes, this R radius goes, then 2 ones are, 2 twos are, pi goes. Okay? The velocity of the electron, finally we are left with velocity of the electron in the nth permitted orbit is, we are left with Z square divided by 2 epsilon naught n h. Clearly, very easily we got. This is a 5-mark derivation. So consider a hydrogen atom, it consists of so and so. So according to Bohr postulate, you write this equation, this one, then divide, get this expression. This gives the expression for velocity of electron in the nth permitted orbit. Okay, for hydrogen atom, Z equals 1. So if you put 1, Z equals 1, you are left with E square by 2 epsilon naught NH. So observe here, all these things are constants. Z, E, 2, epsilon naught, H. All those things are constants for a given atom. Only thing which varies is n. For first orbit n equals 1, for the second orbit n equals 2. So like that. Therefore, velocity is inversely proportional to n or 1 by n. Okay? What does it says? As n increases from first orbit to second orbit, velocity decreases. It is in the denominator. Therefore, inner electrons, the velocity in the inner electrons, inner orbits is more. It is similar to our planets. Mercury. So the velocity in the inner orbits is more, outer orbits is less. So the velocity of the electron in the first orbit is more, in the second orbit is 1 by 2 times the first orbit, half of it. In the third orbit, it is 1 by 3 times the first orbit. Okay? So knowing the velocity in the first orbit, we can find out second, third and all those orbits. So if we substitute the velocity in the expression 2, this, that is mass into velocity, that into radius equals nh by 2 pi. Okay? So then observe here, 2 goes, these things, only these things cancels. So if Rn, radius of the orbit, is given by, okay, this 2 goes, epsilon naught goes to the numerator, n into n becomes n square, h into h becomes h square, these things goes to denominator, that pi m z e square. This gives expression for the radius of the permitted orbits of hydrogen atom. For hydrogen atom, z is 1, so we get this expression. So for radius of the permitted orbits, if n equals 1, it gives the radius of the first permitted orbit. If n equals 2, it gives the radius of the second permitted orbits. So epsilon naught, h, pi m, z e square are all constants. Only n is the variable from first orbit, second, third. So therefore radius is directly proportional to square of the value of n. That is, this n is called principal quantum number in chemistry. So there are 4 quantum numbers which signifies the state of energy, state of electron. So Bohr's theory introduced the first, the most significant quantum number, that is principal quantum number, which signifies the main energy level to which the electron belongs. The main energy level is K shell, L shell, M shell and all those things. That is, then radii of the permitted orbits are in the ratio 1 square, 2 square, 3 square. They are in the ratio 1:4:9. The radius of the second orbit is 4 times that of first. The radius of the third orbit is 9 times that of the first. Okay? So this is about Bohr's theory. So in this session we derived expression for the velocity and radius. So knowing these expressions, we shall derive expression for the energy of the electron and Rydberg constant, wave number, wavelength, all those things in the next session. So be prepared, learn, read, learn all these things. Thank you.